Hello everyone, JD here, and I just wanted to share a quick personal update with you this week. As many of you know, I'll be taking a short period of paternity leave, and I just wanted to say thank you for your patience and understanding whilst I take that time. In the meantime, of course, our fantastic staff, volunteers and trustees will continue to ensure everything at Sight for White carries on as normal. I'd also like to say another heartfelt thanks to all of our members, volunteers, trustees and staff, of course our supporters as well. Next week it marks my first anniversary as CEO of Sight for White, and it's really hard to believe how quickly the year has gone. It's been a privilege to work alongside such a dedicated team and such an incredible community. Together we've achieved so much over the last 12 months, and I am so genuinely grateful for all the support, kindness and encouragement that you've all shown. I'm also really pleased to say that our annual general meeting was really well received. It gave us a chance to reflect on the progress we've made together over the past year, celebrate some achievements and look ahead with confidence to the future. Although I'll be taking a short break, I'm already looking forward to returning and continuing the exciting work ahead. There's some really wonderful opportunities on the horizon, and I'm excited to see what next year will bring for Sight for White and all the people that we work so hard to support. Thank you again for everything that you do. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to speaking with all of you again very soon.
Here is this week's charity news, the 27th of July 2026. Tomorrow, Saturday, July the 25th, Lynn, our wonderful volunteer, is opening up her gardens at number 13 Oxford Street, Northwood, for the afternoon. The cost is £5 per person to include refreshments, and it starts at 2 p.m.
Swimming has now finished for the summer and will commence on September the 7th.
Our last session of tandem biking is on Tuesday the 28th along the Cowes cycle track. If you would like a go on a tandem, please do not hesitate to call the office and we can arrange a suitable time.
Coffee and chat is on Wednesday starting at 10 a.m. until 11:30 a.m. The cost is £2 to include drinks and cake. Staff are on hand to help with any queries and to demonstrate equipment.
Mix and Mingle is on Thursday at Millbrook House, and this group enjoys crafts, quizzes and entertainment. If you would like to put your name down on the list, please call the office.
Striders is on Friday the 31st. The stride will start at Millbrook House at 10 a.m. and finish with lunch at the 8 bells. For more details, please call the office.
Yoga will start in September at Millbrook House at 2 p.m. and if you would like to join the group, please call the office and ask for more details. The group will only start depending on numbers showing an interest.
Just a reminder that all member activities will stop for August. Therefore, the last date of any activity is Friday the 31st of July and will reopen on Tuesday the 1st of September.
Our annual short story writing competition is now live, and this year the theme is Love, Hope and Courage. Adult stories should be between 1,500 and 2,000 words, and for more details or for an entry form, please call the office and speak to Chris. This could be your summer project whilst the activities are on break, or encourage grandchildren and family members to enter. Lots of lovely prizes are on offer.
This is Alison reading an article from the Island Echo entitled Specialist Spare Part Delay Keeping Shanklin Cliff Lift Out of Action. Delays in sourcing specialist spare parts are preventing the area's rare and iconic cliff lift from returning to service, with the popular attraction remaining closed during one of the busiest periods of the year. In an update issued to residents and visitors on social media, Shanklin Town Councillor Michael Beston said he had spoken directly with the Isle of Wight Council team responsible for the lift's maintenance contract and had been told the current delay was down to difficulties obtaining the components needed to complete repairs. The matter was chased again earlier this week, with the Isle of Wight Council continuing to press the contractor for an update on when the required parts will become available. The prolonged closure has disappointed both residents and holidaymakers, particularly during the peak summer season, when the lift provides an important link between Shanklin Town Centre and the Esplanade. Councillor Beston said the lift is not only an iconic landmark, but also a vital transport link for those with limited mobility, families with young children, local businesses and the wider tourism economy. He added that while the Isle of Wight Council has previously invested heavily in refurbishing and maintaining the lift to secure its long-term future, sourcing replacement parts for ageing infrastructure can prove challenging. Michael Beston, Shanklin Town Councillor, has said, "I know many residents and visitors are disappointed that the Shanklin Cliff Lift remains out of service, particularly during the busy summer season. I have spoken directly with the Isle of Wight Council's team who manage the lift maintenance contract, and I've been advised that the current delay is due to difficulties in sourcing the specialist spare parts required to complete the repair." The Shanklin Cliff Lift is an iconic landmark and an essential link between the town and the seafront. It's particularly important for those with limited mobility, families with young children, local businesses and our tourism economy. Please be assured that I, together with Shanklin Town Council, will continue to seek regular updates and press for the lift to be returned to service as quickly and safely as possible. The latest update comes after the Cliff Lift was forced to close following a technical fault. As previously reported by Island Echo, engineers were called in to assess the Victorian attraction after it was taken out of service unexpectedly, with the Isle of Wight Council confirming specialist repairs were required before it could safely reopen. The Cliff Lift has long been regarded as one of Shanklin's best-known landmarks, having been constructed in 1958, and provides an important connection between the cliff top and the seafront. It has undergone several major refurbishment projects over the years, as the Isle of Wight Council seeks to preserve the historic structure for future generations. Councillor Beston says he will continue seeking updates from the Isle of Wight Council and the contractor, with further information to be shared as soon as it becomes available.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. Southern Water is set to invest around $20 million in a major programme of work aimed at reducing storm overflows across the Isle of Wight, with projects planned for Newport, Ryde, East Cowes, West Cowes, Gurnard and the West Wight. The water company says the 2-year programme will help protect the Isle of Wight's rivers, coastline and bathing waters by investigating the causes of storm overflows and delivering both short-term improvements and longer-term infrastructure projects. The investment has been made possible through accelerated funding approved by industry regulator Ofwat, allowing investigations and planning work to begin earlier than originally scheduled. Southern Water says the Isle of Wight has already been the focus of innovative trials to reduce storm overflows, with around $9 million previously invested in testing a range of potential solutions. Over the next 2 years, engineers will continue investigations at key locations across the island, while identifying quick fix measures alongside larger schemes that will take longer to deliver. Once those projects have been completed, attention will turn to the remaining storm overflows. Overall, Southern Water expects to invest around $20 million in the programme. Graham Williamson, project manager for the Isle of Wight, has said, "The Isle of Wight is home to some of the UK's most treasured rivers, coastlines and bathing waters, and we are determined to play our part in protecting them. By combining targeted investment, innovation and practical action, we can significantly reduce the frequency and volume of storm overflows and create a cleaner, healthier and more resilient environment for future generations. We are building on the knowledge, expertise and local insight we have already gained to focus investment where it will have the greatest impact. This includes delivering sustainable drainage solutions that slow the flow of rainwater, separating surface water from homes, schools and commercial buildings, and continuing to improve the performance and resilience of our existing network. The announcement follows increasing public concern over sewerage discharges into rivers and coastal waters, particularly around designated bathing beaches, with Southern Water saying the latest investment is designed to accelerate improvements across some of the Isle of Wight's most environmental sensitive areas.
This is Alison, reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio entitled Isle of Wight Shortlisted for Europe's Most Desirable Island Award. The Isle of Wight has been shortlisted as one of Europe's most desirable island destinations in the 2026 Wanderlust Reader Travel Awards. The island is competing in the Most Desirable Island in Europe category, alongside destinations including Corsica, Crete, Madeira, Mallorca, Sicily, Tenerife and the Isle of Skye. The Wanderlust Reader Travel Awards are now in their 25th year and are among the UK's biggest travel awards, with more than 200,000 people expected to vote. Visit Isle of Wight is encouraging residents, visitors and anyone who loves the island to cast their vote and help showcase the destination internationally. Dominic Ray, Chief Executive of Visit Isle of Wight, said the nomination was a fantastic achievement and reflected the island's coastline, landscapes, communities, experiences and heritage. He added, "These awards are decided entirely by the public, so every vote really does count. Whether you live here, have visited before or simply love the Isle of Wight, we'd be hugely grateful if you could take a moment to vote and help us showcase our wonderful island on the international stage." Voting is open until the 27th of October, with winners announced at the Wanderlust Reader Travel Awards ceremony on the 4th of November during WTM London.
Hello, this is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Sue. Sussex joins Isle of Wight in prolonged dry weather. Sussex has been placed into a state of prolonged dry weather by the Environment Agency, 11 days after Hampshire and the Isle of Wight were given the same status. The move follows continued hot weather, low rainfall and increasing demand for water across the region. South East Water has also confirmed temporary hosepipe restrictions will come into force across Hampshire, Sussex, Surrey and Berkshire from Saturday the 25th of July, joining Kent. The Environment Agency says prolonged dry weather allows it to respond more quickly to environmental impacts and manage water resources if conditions worsen. Richard O'Callaghan, Environment Planning and Engagement Manager, said everyone should use water wisely to help protect rivers and the wider environment.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read today by me, Morris.
And me, Carolyn.
Crackdown as drivers caught ignoring closures. Drivers on the Isle of Wight have racked up scores of incidents in 3 months, ignoring road closures and abusing road workers, and police have already acted against some. The Island Road Safety Group, set up in March after a spike in abuse of road workers and drivers flouting temporary traffic measures, revealed the figure. Since March, it has logged 61 incidents and passed 14 reports to Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary. So far, offenders have faced everything from warning letters to prosecution. Most reports are of drivers breaking legally enforced road closures. But there have also been reports of call centre staff being harassed and of a public figure allegedly urging people to sneak around road closures, although no further detail was given about this. The partnership, an idea backed by Hampshire and Isle of Wight Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones, brings together the Isle of Wight Council, the Constabulary and Island Roads. The dangerous behaviour has carried on despite repeated warnings. At this year's Walk the Wight, Island Road staff saw drivers ignore a no entry sign and enter a closed road, putting walkers and volunteers at risk. Michelle Love, the Isle of Wight Council Service Director for Highways and Community Protection, said the number of incidents highlighted the scale of the problem. She said though the vast majority of road users do the right thing, the fact that 61 incidents have been recorded in just 3 months highlights the extent of the issue we face. Island Road Service Director Steve Ashman said workers should not have to face abuse while carrying out their jobs, adding that improved incident recording was helping police take appropriate action. Superintendent Marcus Cater, Isle of Wight Area Commander, urged motorists to be patient around roadworks. He said, whilst delays to a journey can be frustrating, we encourage road users to be patient and remember that nobody should feel unsafe or threatened when they are simply doing their job. Donna Jones said the behaviour aimed at Island Road staff was a huge concern. Island Roads is stepping up mobile CCTV and body-worn cameras to gather evidence and reviewing signs so road closures are clearly marked. It has also warned drivers that going through temporary road closures could invalidate insurance claims.
Firefighters tackle wildfire. A major blaze has caused devastation at one of the island's most renowned beauty spots, Heddon Warren, destroying acres of heathland and habitats. Huge flames took hold of the National Trust site yesterday morning, spreading rapidly in the dry conditions caused by the heat wave. More than 65 firefighters from the island and the mainland were drafted in as part of attempts to bring the wildfire under control. Crews from Newport, Cowes, Ventnor, Freshwater, Shanklin, East Cowes and Ryde were all called to the Gorse fire. When first discovered, the fire was estimated to be affected an area of approximately 150 metres by 150 metres. This quickly increased to around 1,000 metres by 800 metres. Local farmers also assisted by using tractors to create fire breaks. Firefighters on scene have told the county press they believe the fire was man-made. They found remains of burnt wooden blocks and they believe it jumped to the gorse. A spokesperson for the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service said crews have used specialist firefighting techniques to tackle the blaze and asked members of the public to avoid the area. Several footpaths leading to the site were cordoned off by firefighters. Heddon Warren itself is a site of special scientific interest. Most of this land is owned and managed by the National Trust. A spokesperson for the National Trust told the county press its ranger team is supporting firefighters. We'd like to thank the fire crews for their swift response and ask everyone to avoid the area while emergency services are at work. It warned that the countryside is so dry that it only takes a single spark to start a devastating fire and urged people not to start any kind of fire. Heathland is one of the UK's rarest habitats and supports some of the Isle of Wight's most precious wildlife. The fire comes a week after the county press's front page, which raised concerns from nearby B&B owners about the risks of wildfires in the area. David and Jane Blake cited a major fire at Heddon Warren in 1989 as an example of how bad it could get.
Fast food giant finds no support with planners. A multi-million-pound McDonald's scheme is up for a decision next week and Isle of Wight planners aren't loving it. The proposal for a new restaurant with a drive-through next to 3 Gates Road in Cowes fails to show how it would prevent ill health in the community, according to a planning report. However, new McDonald's restaurants are going ahead in Lake and at the new Newport Retail Park, and existing restaurants have been in operation for years in Ryde, near Tesco Extra and Newport Town Centre. The Cowes application, which includes car parking, landscaping and customer order displays, has been recommended for refusal based on the site being within walking distance of a school and other facilities where children may gather. Officers have also cited an adverse impact on the character and appearance of the area, insufficient information on ecology and biodiversity net gain, and the lack of a legal agreement to secure a contribution towards rights of way. McDonald's agent Planware previously said the proposals would allow McDonald's to meet customer demand and introduce extra market choice. The fast food giant's agent said the restaurant would create 120 jobs. County Hall has received 186 representations from members of the public objecting to the plans and 138 letters in support. There have also been several petitions opposing the McDonald's, with one signed by 361 people, another with 1,788 digital signatures, and a further appeal signed by 141. Arguments in favour of the scheme include job creation, greater choice of convenience food, the restaurant being cheap for families on low income, business rates revenue and the project's sustainable design. Increased noise and disturbance, health concerns over fast food, harm to habitats and wildlife, light pollution, antisocial behaviour, odour, late night activity, litter and jobs being part-time and low paid are among points raised by critics. The committee report says, due to the location and based on the information provided with the application, the proposal has failed to demonstrate that the use would enable and support healthy lives or promote good health and prevent ill health. It would also fail to reduce health inequalities between the most and least deprived communities, including access to healthier food. The proposed 2.4 metre high closed boarded fence boundary, treatment along the northern boundary and cramped appearance of the site would result in a detrimental impact on the character and appearance of the area and street scene. Planners said the proposal lacks information showing there are no viable sites within or on the edge of the town centre.
Landlord must pay out £10,000. A landlord who failed to carry out remedial action to address multiple hazards in his Ryde flats must fork out more than £10,000 in court fees. The case of Walter Collins of Tedders Lees, Etching Hill, Folkestone, went before Isle of Wight magistrates on July the 9th. The landlord denied and was found guilty at trial of failing to comply with an operative improvement notice in Ryde between February the 8th, 2024 and February the 7th, 2025. The charge related to Category 1 and 2 hazards at 40 Monkton Street, Ryde, a property which had been converted into 4 self-contained flats. The notice required remedial works to address a number of hazards, and Collins failed to begin and complete works within the required timescale. The hazards identified were as follows: fire, damp and mould growth, entry by intruders, structural collapse and falling elements, and electrical hazards. The court imposed a £5,000 fine, which was the maximum, with a victim surcharge of £2,000. The court also awarded the Isle of Wight Council costs of £4,251.93. A spokesperson for the local authority told the county press, "The council will continue to monitor the property to ensure the required works are completed and the accommodation is brought up to an acceptable standard for residents.
Crash sparks response. Police, firefighters and paramedics all responded to a crash near Newport on Wednesday night. Emergency services were called to Noak Common close to Horsebridge Hill after receiving reports of a road traffic collision at 7:20 p.m. 2 Newport fire crews attended the scene after a request from ambulance teams to ensure the area was safe. A spokesperson for the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Service said fire crews were called to provide scene safety. The collision involved a Royal Mail van and a parked R.J. Proctor Building Services van. Police said the driver sustained minor injuries. Rob Proctor told the county press his van was parked at the time of the collision and no one was in the vehicle. The road was closed temporarily for emergency response and vehicle recovery.
Shock and sadness over vet's decision to close up. Pet owners have reacted with shock and sadness to the imminent closure of a veterinary practice in Shanklin. French vet Olivier Guesquier has made the decision to shut Guess Vet off Rorchardley Road. My shoulders are letting me down, but I am mainly tired of the constant criticism from some other vets on the island and farther for years for working below standards when I am old-fashioned, he posted on social media. Mr. Guesquier said he will stop treating small animals in September and cease horse work at the end of the breeding and scanning season. He thanked islanders for their support over the years, saying, "All the veterinary centres on the Isle of Wight have been made aware of my decision 3 weeks ago and offered the possibility of taking over the practice, but I received no reply. I am aware that it will be difficult for each of you to find another practice for your companions. I can only encourage you to start inquiring without waiting. I will miss you enormously." His announcement drew more than 250 comments, with many urging him to rethink his decision. Annette said, "Devastated to hear this, Olivia. I think you are a wonderful, caring and principled man. I really hope you reconsider your decision and stay a little longer." Stephen said, "Thank you for the kindness and compassion you always showed our dogs." Natasha added, "Thank you for all your expertise and help over the years. I'm not sure what we'll do without you." Lucy said, "You are kind, knowledgeable and compassionate, and always at the end of the phone to advise. My cat has terrible anxiety, but you were able to treat him and put my mind at rest." Kim praised him, saying, "You are a marvellous person, compassionate, kind, and extremely knowledgeable. You will be missed." Lucy added, the most compassionate vet who truly loves what he does and helped so many. This is such a huge loss, and I thank you for all you have done and wish you well for the future. It's a sad day."
Sentencing for woman after causing 3-car crash. A 25-year-old woman has been sentenced after causing a 3-car crash on a busy road earlier this year. Ella Osborne of Castle Street in Ryde appeared before Aldershot Magistrates Court on July the 13th, where she admitted driving without due care and attention. The offence related to a 3-car collision on Wootton High Street on April the 12th. The crash happened at around 2:30 p.m. near the junction with Kennedy Close. Osborne had been driving a silver Volkswagen Golf at the time of the incident. Police were called to the scene and Osborne was arrested on suspicion of drink driving, but within 24 hours officers confirmed she would face no further action in relation to that alleged offence. Instead, she was charged with driving without due care and attention in connection with the crash. Magistrates endorsed Osborne's licence with 5 penalty points. She was also ordered to pay a £350 fine, court costs of £130 and a £140 surcharge, bringing the total financial penalty to £640.
Antique shop owner comes out of retirement at 84. A businessman has come out of retirement once again to take over an antique shop at the age of 84. After less than a year retired, John Wright has bought Corner House Antiques on the edge of Shanklin Old Village. Retirement just wasn't for me, and I am incredibly excited to get back in the saddle doing what I love, said John. It is not the first time John has rejected a quiet retirement. He first moved to the Isle of Wight to retire at 65 after a 45-year running hairdressing businesses in West Sussex. This lasted just 6 months, however, after which he launched a hair salon on Victoria Road, Shanklin, that later evolved into Victoria Antiques. After 18 years in antiques, the shop owner moved to Regent Street, and John became an expert in coins, banknotes, gold and silver, appearing 6 times on BBC's Antiques Road Trip. Corner House Antiques will continue to house traders who rent space there, John said. Age has never been a barrier for me, John added. John's daughters Jenny and Denise will run traders, management, social media marketing and operational management. The family is seeking new partners while John is looking to buy coin collections and other collectible items. The new owners take over on August the 4th.
Highways in the spotlight over closure. The controversial closure of a road has raised serious concerns over the decision-making, monitoring and communications around closing highways, councillors have agreed. Full Council voted to request the subject to be treated as a priority matter of highways governance, accountability and public confidence in a motion passed at County Hall. Chair, Councillor Ian Daw, who put forward the submission, said members from different political groups have been saying the same thing. The island's highways arrangements are not giving residents and businesses the confidence, clarity or accountability they deserve. In reference to the recent closure of Firestone Copse Road near Wootton, the motion said no formal recorded risk, safety or displacement assessments have been disclosed, and no clear formal options, appraisal or decision recorded have been produced. The disclosed papers reveal blurred accountability and inconsistent communications, including confusion between Island Road's delegated decision-making role, Southern Water's supporting role, the practical implementation of the closure and the management of the closure itself, it said. Residents and businesses experienced significant disruption, while the wider record raises concerns about member engagement, public communication and whether the Council's own standards of transparent, accountable and well-recorded decision-making were met. The Firestone Copse Road closure has raised serious concerns about the evidential basis, decision-making, communications, monitoring and governance surrounding highway closures undertaken through the Island Roads Highways PFI and the Council's highways function. The Council agreed to refer concerns as an urgent matter to the appropriate committee or committees for consideration. Councillor Dawes' motion also requests the Council consider and make recommendations on commissioning an independent contract assurance review of the Highways PFI, including the integration, oversight and operation of the local authority's Highways Department at meetings in September. The proposal asks that the matter is brought to full Council no later than November. Councillor Julie Jones-Evans, an Island First Network member who chairs the Economy, Regeneration, Transport and Infrastructure Committee, told the Chamber work has already been commenced. Conservative Councillor Matthew Price said part of the road could have been left open during a 10-day closure of Fairlea Road. Island Roads responded by saying its priority will always be maintaining a safe highway network.
New short film to celebrate iconic yacht Britannia. A new short film will celebrate one of Cowes' most iconic yachts. Titled Britannia's Wake, the film will premiere during Cowes Week 200 and has been created by members of Trinity Theatre Cowes. It tells the story of the day the famous yacht was scuttled. The drama follows a group of men gathering at the Union Inn to pay tribute to the yacht, with their memories unfolding through storytelling, dramatic performances, and historic photographs. A spokesperson for Trinity Theatre said, "Britannia's Wake is a celebration of Cowes, its ordinary maritime history, and the power of community storytelling. We hope local residents and visitors alike will join us to remember one of the town's most celebrated yachts while supporting the future of Trinity Theatre." Filmed entirely in Cowes, the production celebrates the Isle of Wight's rich maritime heritage while showcasing the talents of the local community. Screenings will take place at Trinity Theatre from July the 31st to August the 7th. Performances will run daily at 11 a.m, 12 noon, 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. Admission is free, with voluntary donations welcome in support of the Trinity Theatre Roof Fund.
Coffee event to boost bus. A special coffee morning is being held at Knighton Village Hall tomorrow at 10 a.m. to raise funds for the Daisy Bus. Local businesses have donated raffle prizes including vouchers for pizza at the post office, a cream tea at Coffee, fish and chips from the Jolly Friar, plus mermaid gin and a gift from Tregar Pottery. Tickets have been on sale in the library in the run-up to the event. There will also be homemade cakes and treats, pre-loved clothes, books, bric-a-brac, games and much more.
Changes over major project. A major water recycling project awaiting a decision by the Isle of Wight Council has been tweaked after widespread concerns from residents and stakeholders. On behalf of Southern Water, Adams Henry set out changes to the proposal, which includes a water recycling plant on land to the south of Sandown Wastewater Treatment Works, a pipeline from the facility to the Eastern Yar, and an outfall. Alterations include amendments to the application site boundary to accommodate power installation works, carry out improvements to the junction of Greenwood Lane and the A3055 Morton Road, as well as for a temporary alternative footpath. The tweaks also include reducing the length of the proposed outfall channel to reduce the impact on the Alveston Marshes site of special scientific interest. Southern Water previously faced a flood of objections, including from Island Roads, the Badger Trust Isle of Wight, the Wild Heart Animal Sanctuary, and Save Our South Coast Alliance. Criticisms included a lack of meaningful consultation with residents and collaboration with businesses, significant negative impacts on the Eastern Yar, Alveston Marshes, coastal waters, biodiversity, and local community, as well as lighting, noise, and odour concerns. Adams Henry's consultation response stated says, "Minor alterations to the access of Greenwood Lane at the junction with the A3055 Morton Road are proposed, following comments raised by Island Roads that vehicles cannot safely access Greenwood Lane from the south. A temporary alternative footpath is proposed along the west-east section of Greenwood Lane, following concerns by residents that construction traffic will deter pedestrians, including dog walkers, school children and other pedestrians utilising the public right-of-way. The consultancy says Southern Water continues to actively engage with the community, landowners and those who may be impacted by the development through the planning determination period and construction phase, referring to future letters, briefings, drop-in events, signage, posters, notices and updates. Adams Hendry's responses to concerns include pointing to robust treatment processes, strict environmental permitting, routine monitoring, modelling, showing odour impact will be negligible, lighting control measures and a lighting strategy. The response statement said there will not be a significant effect on ecology from construction noise. County Hall's public consultation on Proposal 25/01619/FUL runs until August the 21st and a decision is due on October the 26th.
Primary pupils come together for games. Hundreds of children came together for a day of sport, teamwork and fun. More than 320 primary school pupils took part in the 6th annual Peach Games held at West White Sports Centre. The event, designed to promote physical activity, teamwork and well-being, was organised by the Isle of Wight Public Health Team alongside school games organisers Tony Harris and Andy Day. Kate Harvey, the island's Director of Public Health, said the Peach Games are an important event in the promotion of physical activity, positive well-being and healthy competition. This supports young people to lead healthy lives with a balanced diet and plenty of exercise. Around 70 secondary school sports leaders supported the younger pupils throughout the day, leading activities and offering encouragement. The Games were officially opened by the Isle of Wight Lord Lieutenant Susie Sheldon and Isle of Wight Council Chairman Councillor Ian Dorr. Pupils took part in a range of activities to improve fitness, coordination and confidence, as well as team building exercises, problem solving games and first aid sessions in the event's athlete village. The secondary school leaders were also praised for helping the day run smoothly and inspiring the next generation. The Peach programme helps schools promote health and well-being.
High praise for popular seaside town. The seaside town of Ventnor has been named among the best in the UK by The Times, praised for its chalky cliffs and beach. Ventnor made the list of the newspaper's best seaside towns for 2026, coming in at number 11. In the explanation for its inclusion on the 20-strong list, journalist Oliver Berry highlights its seaside resort, history and calls it a lovely spot. He said the southernmost town on the Isle of Wight, Ventnor has been a seaside resort since Victorian times, when sea bathing and bracing seaside walks were touted as a miracle cure for all a nation suffering from the effects of mass industrialisation. The town has had its ups and downs since then, and while its nickname of Mayfair by the Sea might be overdoing it a little, it's a lovely spot, framed by the chalky cliffs of St Boniface Down and its own small patch of sand, and handy for some of the best walks on the Isle of Wight. The town's botanic garden is also a must-see. The article names the Royal Hotel as a stalwart place to stay in Ventnor, saying it is a large Victorian affair with an air of bygone days.
Busy convenience store up for sale. A busy convenience store in a wide catchment area is up for sale. The central store on Newport Road in Upper Ventnor is on the market through agents Hose Road and Dixon with a guide price of £245,000. The property comprises a retail space with staff areas on the ground floor and a living room, kitchen, bathroom and 2 double bedrooms on the first floor. Outside is decking with steps to a rear garden. The property offers the only convenient shopping in a large catchment area with 2 schools nearby. It is available to purchase freehold with the benefit of the tenant in place, and viewings are available through Hose Road, Dixon.
Island MPs welcome government U-turn on Coast Guard pay. Coast Guards will continue to be paid for attending incidents and training following a U-turn from the government in news welcomed by both Isle of Wight MPs. Minister for Transport, Key Mather, announced the decision to reverse plans to stop hourly remuneration and move to an expenses-only volunteer model. The Coast Guard rescue officers in Parliament. The news has been welcomed by both the island's MPs. Joe Robertson, MP for Isle of Wight East, campaigned for the reversal of the policy by hosting a parliamentary event, speaking with ministers and meeting with Maritime and Coast Guard Agency Chief Executive Virginia McVeigh. He also secured a meeting between Bembridge resident and former CRO Martin Groom, who brought a legal case against the MCA over the plans to remove pay. Mr. Robertson said, "It is very welcome news that the Minister has seen sense and blocked the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency's brutal proposal against its own brave frontline workers. The MCA's announcement to strip pay from Coast Guard rescue officers after more than 100 years and then misrepresent its own internal survey results was completely wrong and should never have happened. I sincerely thank Martin for standing up to the MCA in the first place, and it's thanks to him that we finally secured government backing. The government now needs to look at the whole Coast Guard Rescue Service model and consult fully and meaningfully with the more than 3,000 Coast Guard rescue officers. Whatever decisions are finally taken, the government must ensure that our hero CROs continue to be remunerated for the hours they put in, helping to save lives and keep our coastal communities safe. Richard Quigley, MP for Isle of Wight West, also welcomed the news. He said thank you to the Minister for listening and thank you to our dedicated Coast Guard rescue officers for the vital work you do every day. We will continue fighting to ensure your voices are heard, respected and valued. Nicola Savage, GMB National Officer, said, "This is a richly deserved win for GMB's Coast Guards, who took their campaign across the UK and into the corridors of power. It was a scandal that these brave, life-saving workers would have their pay cut. But ministers have listened and done the right thing."
Beach access route Osborne Steps finally reopens. A key route to Shanklin Beach has reopened more than 3 years after a landslip forced it to shut. Osborne Steps, linking East Cliff Promenade to the seafront, has reopened after the Isle of Wight Council repaired and stabilised it. The steps were closed in December 2022 after major ground movement damaged a retaining wall, which sparked fears for cliff stability. The council also closed part of East Cliff Promenade for safety, cutting off a popular walking route to the beach. The long closure frustrated residents, businesses and visitors and restricted access to the seafront's southern end. Traders and current former Shanklin councillors said losing the route was hurting the town economically, as landslips at Apley Steps and elsewhere on East Cliff Promenade fuelled wider fears over coastal access. In May, the council announced a 4-week programme to restore the route. The work tackled the causes of the instability by installing new groundwater drains to ease pressure behind the retaining wall and reduce the risk of further cliff movement. Engineers rebuilt the retaining wall, upgrading drains, fitted cliff face netting and refurbished the steel staircase. The council said the work would make the site safer and more resilient in the long term.
New water bottle refill fountains. New water bottle refill stations are coming to coastal towns across the Bay Area. Fountains will be installed in Lake, Shanklin and Sandown, offering free access to drinking water along seafront and clifftop routes. Designed to support runners, cyclists and visitors, the stations aim to reduce plastic waste and encourage healthy habits. The project is funded by the Sea Changers Coastal Fountain Fund, supported by the Isle of Wight Council, with Lake Parish Council, Sandown Town Council and Shanklin Town Council leading the scheme. Alex Minns, Service Director for Community Regeneration and Economy at the Isle of Wight Council, said, "We're excited to take this really positive step forward for our coastal communities. These fountains will make it easier for both residents and visitors to access free drinking water exactly where they need it the most, helping to tackle plastic pollution and supporting healthier lifestyles." Lake's fountain will be installed at Lake Cliff Gardens and will feature an Our Only World dolphin-shaped unit made from recycled fishing nets. Paul Brading, Chair of Lake Parish Council, said, "The dolphin water fountain, located at the gateway to Lake, will be a fun and functional feature for families, friends and visitors for current and future generations." In Shanklin, the refill station will be located on the seafront at Hope Road, attached to the public toilet and shower block. A Shanklin Town Council spokesperson said the new facility will provide both residents and visitors with a convenient way to refill reusable water bottles, helping to reduce the reliance on single-use plastic bottles. By encouraging people to refill rather than purchase bottled water, the initiative will contribute to reducing plastic waste and its long-term impact on our coastline and marine environment. Plastic pollution continues to be a significant environmental issue, particularly along our beaches and in our seas. Sandown's fountain will be installed at Eastern Yard Gardens, next to Changing Places facility near the Sundial Cafe. Alex Lightfoot, Mayor of Sandown Town Council, said, "We're delighted to see the new water fountains and bottle filling station installed across the bay. The fountains are scheduled to be operational this summer."
And now we're moving on to White Memories and Nostalgia. This is a headline that reads, "From talent shows to festivals." In the first article in this series, we looked at Terence Perkins, the milkman who shot to fame as Craig Douglas with his #1 single, Only 16. Although he became a household name, he wasn't the island's first pop star, nor its first milkman to achieve renown as a musician. That was John Mowbray, better known as Johnny Vincent, who was raised in Wootton. His career, like Douglas's, was launched by a talent show. Mainly through his own choice, he didn't achieve the stardom Douglas did, but he drew many fans with his rendition of classics by Elvis Presley and Jerry Lee Lewis. Another singer who made it big on the island and had some impact on the mainland was Pat Reeder from Cowes. She also started out winning a talent contest, but later admitted to show business journalist John Hannam that she didn't have the right attitude to reach the top. Her best-known record, Cha Cha on the Moon, was produced by the legendary Joe Meek at his studio in Holloway Road. She was the first island artist to venture to the Northern Club circuit, quite a tall order for a young woman aged 16. As well as soloists, the island produced hundreds of skiffle and rock and roll bands in the 50s and 60s. Of these, the Cherokees were by far the biggest, selling out wherever they played on the island. Formed in 1957, they had a regular slot at Queen's Hall in Newport, which is now Boots, undergoing a change of personnel in 1962 when their lineup became Graham Betchley, Brian Sharp, Cran Davis and Ken Young. They supported most of the big bands when they came to the island, most famously the Rolling Stones, who played 2 gigs at Ryde Pavilion on March the 22nd, 1964. The Cherokees also founded the 69 Club, which had bases at the Royal York Hotel in Ryde and Ventnor Winter Gardens. The club was legendary for hosting major bands including The Nice, The Who, Pink Floyd, Moody Blues, Status Quo, T-Rex, Deep Purple and Fairport Convention. All were supported by the Cherokees. Their strangest gig must have been as support to the double bill of Matt Monro, the Smooth Balladeer, and the Pretty Things, known as much for their outrageous behaviour as their heavy rock. Watch this space for more about one of their members. Many thought that the Cherokees were good enough for the big time, but they acknowledged they lacked the ambition to go further and mainly did covers and not originals. Thanks to the impresario Wilf Pine, they secured a record contract with Parlophone and came close to making the charts with a version of Candle in the Wind.
As there was a mainland group of the same name, they recorded this as Wilfred Pine, who grew up in Ryde, was a big promoter of music on the island, bringing over bands such as Black Sabbath, which he managed, and Yes, a larger-than-life figure with connections to the Mafia and the Cray twins. He also managed Edgar Broughton and Stray, and ran the Music Box nightclub in Ryde, which later became Carousel in the early 1970s. The Cherokees split in 1972, but in 2004 Brian Sharp released a CD called The Cherokees Found in the Attic, which included tracks recorded at their live gigs. Another popular band was the Shamrocks, who also supported the Stones at Ryde and at the Savoy Ballroom in Southsea. They toured Europe and also played with Manfred Mann, Alexis Corner, the Hollies and the Yardbirds, then with Eric Clapton. Band member Gary Counton wrote the lyrics for the song Looking for Freedom, recorded by David Hasselhoff. This reached number 1 in several European countries and number 4 on the European Hot 100 singles. It was famously played during the demolition of the Berlin Wall. The 3 festivals at the end of the 60s were among the biggest music events ever staged. The 1969 event, which drew 150,000 people, dwarfed anything seen in the UK before, and the 600,000 who flocked to Afton Down in 1970 made it one of the largest music gatherings in history. Organising these was an extraordinary feat for the 3 Folk brothers from Freshwater, who started out just wanting to raise money for a swimming pool. The festivals attracted most of the big names of the era, cementing their place in rock history and establishing the island as a place where world-class music happens. Prizing Dylan from his backyard Woodstock to play the 1969 was a huge achievement, as was attracting Hendrix in 1970, for that would prove to be his penultimate live show. Then there were The Who, Joni Mitchell, The Doors, Leonard Cohen. These were not just concerts, but defining moments in late 1960s counterculture, and they happened here. Next time we move into the 1970s and 1980s.
And now we're going on to My View, and I have a headline here that reads, "A Messiah from Manchester? Perhaps not." I was wondering what I'd splash out on with Andy Burnham's £3.75 a month fuel duty cut. Now I have to think again. Money-saving expert Martin Lewis says by the time we get it, the energy cap will have gone up, rendering the promised VAT cut useless. As always, it's the hope that kills you. Only time will tell if Andy can transform our nation for the better. But he's made a bad start this week. His Transport Minister quickly admitted there's no plan to fund that 2027 £1 cut to bus fares. Then it was revealed Labour's Get Out of Jail Early scheme could release a pair of cop killers, sensing that was going down like a cup of cold sick. Andy promised to look again at the stupid plan. He started the week telling us we needed to get back to the 70s. Unfortunately, instead of ABBA and glam rock, many remember 3-day weeks, piled up rubbish and endless strikes. It's unlikely he meant that. Could he be trying to appease the unions by promising to repeal Maggie's trade union legislation? Then I wondered why you would start your premiership by arguing with the ghost of Maggie Thatcher. And despite his dodgy start, I love the UK, so I hope that Andy's the man. I always want my country to do well, not just against Argentina. Sensibly, Andy did acknowledge that this is Labour's last chance. I couldn't agree more. It's all very well having a 10-year plan, but 2 years into a Labour government, the public remains restless for the change promised by his predecessor. When Tony Blair won his landslide, I recall hoping he'd improve our nation. When Gordon Brown took over, he repeatedly boasted ended boom and bust. When world events conspired against him, we all went bust together. Brown was frequently pictured biting his nails, implying anxiety, not confidence. All new prime ministers get the benefit of the doubt for a short while, but inevitably they fail. It's just a question of time. Our vote for Keir and Co 2 years ago was a vote for hope that wasn't delivered. Starmer started with complete authority in Parliament, but according to Claire Short, remember her? His own MPs took just 6 months to lose faith in him and his Chancellor. Both repeatedly blamed the previous government, but the electorate never wants to hear that. We don't want excuses, we want solutions to our problems.
Andy Burnham seems very confident that he has all the answers now, but some of his cabinet appointments are clearly just political rewards for close pals who supported his duplicity. Angela Rayner is back, so is convicted fraudster Louise Haigh. Burnham has said we took a wrong turn in the 80s by privatising everything. It's hard to argue against that when our utilities, trains and ferries now operate for the benefit of shareholders, not customers. At least train passengers and water consumers got a regulator. However, useless they've been. Labour hasn't fixed anything yet, including our Isle of Wight ferries. So please, Mr. Quigley, will you plead our case with the new man, Andy? Make it the price of your loyalty. Labour's 1 million homes building target has become a joke. Britain's house builders are struggling to sell the homes they've built. The construction industry has stalled and there's a chronic skills shortage. Thanks to a flat economy and extortionate stamp duty rates, buyers have disappeared. The cost of land infrastructure and building materials makes new build council homes almost unaffordable. Has Andy really got a magical plan to fix that? And does he understand that many of us believe that without mass migration, we wouldn't need to build so many new homes in the first place?
In Public Information, Joe Robertson, MP for Isle of Wight East, writes, "Huge relief following Coast Guard dispute update. Over the past weeks, I have been campaigning alongside Coast Guard rescue officers who provide a vital service around the UK coastline. Here on the Isle of Wight, CROs operate from Bembridge, Ventnor and the Needles, responding to call-outs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Following a successful court case brought by Bembridge resident and former CRO Martin Groom against the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency, the MCA, retaliated by proposing to strip serving CROs of the small remuneration they receive for responding to call-outs and the many hours of mandatory training. The MCA's chief executive told MPs that the decision was in line with what CROs are telling us they want, but a leaked internal survey showed that nearly half of respondents said they would have to reduce hours or quit altogether as a consequence of the plans, thereby threatening the very visibility of the entire service. I was honoured to be able to front a cross-party campaign in Parliament to stop the MCA's brutal plan. On the last day before recess, the Maritime Minister announced that he was blocking the MCA's proposals, which would have taken effect in September, and would consult fully with CROs and MPs before taking any further decision. It was a huge relief and shows the power of working together. In addition to campaigning on behalf of CROs, I have also spoken up in support of hospitality and tourism, businesses and Parliament. Tourism is vital to the Isle of Wight, accounting for 38% of our economy. It is important in terms of young people's experience in the world of work. For many, a summer job in hospitality is their first step on the employment ladder.
However, more and more businesses are finding it harder to employ young people, leading to them missing out and an increase in youth unemployment. The first of the Cross-Solent Transport Group meetings is due to be held in September, having first been promised by the government in April last year. The meetings will bring together the Department for Transport, ferry operators and island representatives to find locally led solutions. I raised concerns in the House of Commons last week following correspondence I received setting out a list of issues off the table for discussion, including evidence more than 10 years old. I told the Minister that I would not be told what I can and cannot say, and he agreed I am best placed to represent my constituents in these matters. He also signalled that he wanted evidence prior to the dynamic spike pricing model brought in around 15 years ago to be factored into the discussions. Finally, I am delighted that Sandown has been shortlisted in the inaugural UK Town of Culture competition following the success of the City of Culture. To reach the final 15 out of 400 entries is a huge achievement, and I congratulate all those who were involved in submitting the bid. I look forward to working with the team in the next stages of the process.
And now, what's on? On Saturday the 1st and Sunday the 2nd of August from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m, it's the Chale Show. And remember that kids go free, adults are £16 and children under 16 are also free. There's so much to see and do. There's OG performance horses, BMX stunts team, marching bands, David Randini, vintage tractors, vehicles, steam engines, live music from local bands, kids zone, fairground rides, a wellness zone, horticultural tent, arts and craft tent, and a food pavilion, and much, much more.
Autofest to return to Haven Street. Autofest returns to Haven Street this August. The event, run by the Isle of Wight Jaguar Enthusiasts Club, will take place at Railway View opposite Haven Street Steam Railway on August the 9th. Visitors can expect to see a mix of vehicles of all makes, types and ages from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Owners wishing to display their vehicles must arrive between 7:30 a.m. and 9:45 a.m. The show has been running for quite a few years, and in the last 2 years has had more than 300 different display vehicles. The family-friendly event promises a fun day out for all. More details can be found on the club's website or by emailing jagautofest@gmail.com.
In letters, Christine of Totland Bay writes, extremely disappointing. On July the 15th, my neighbour inquired of the post office as she hadn't received any post for a while. Her post was delivered the next day to my address. My post was then delivered on July the 17th and included a letter dated the June the 4th from the TV licensing. 2 months of bank statements, 2 months of magazine subscriptions, 2 letters from the NHS with one advising an appointment on July the 8th, which I had obviously missed. Other items also included advertising leaflets advising me of changes to second-class post, together with the gold leaflet, which was too late as the event was well underway by the time I received it. Almost every day, several Royal Mail vans pass my door delivering parcels, so I find it extremely disappointing that it takes 2 weeks for my mail to reach me.
Help and advice on independent living. The Independent Living Show was held at the Isle of Wight Steam Railway with more than 40 exhibitors welcoming around 250 attendees. Visitors could source information on independent living and guidance on home safety, home improvements, wellness, food services and more. Organisers right at home said it was a successful day with very positive feedback. A spokesperson said the weather meant the marquees were a tad warm, but our fabulous stall holders did a great job chatting with guests and promoting their support and services. There was a guest appearance from the Isle of Wight High Sheriff Nigel Hartley, and John from Totland Skye entertained on the banjo. This event is in its 4th year.
There is a crisis in education system, writes Peter Shreve, Assistant District Secretary for the Isle of Wight National Education Union. It was announced that teachers will have a 2-year pay deal, an increase of 3.5% in September, followed by 3% in September 2027. However, government has only partially listened to the NEU. The Department for Education said it will provide extra additional funding to schools in both years towards the cost of the pay rise, but not the full cost. Less than a month ago, Schools Forum met to discuss the Draft Island SEND reform plan. It reported a weak financial position with 23 of 31 maintained primary schools running in year deficits in 2025-26. It reported 10 schools were in longer cumulative debt, and it forecast another 4 by March 2027. The DFE/Education Secretary press release states, schools like the rest of the public sector will need to continue to play their part and will be expected to find the first 1% of each pay award through continued efforts to maximise value from their budgets. Let us be clear. Maximising value at a national level doesn't solve today's local structural funding crisis. A partially funded settlement equals school cuts and greater school deficits. There is a crisis, even if some act like there isn't.
This is a letter from Dr. George Schließer, Gießen, Germany. Prays for rescuers after wife dies. On the night of May the 30th to the 31st, 2026, my wife Petra and I were on our sailing vessel Madrissa at an anchorage in Osborne Bay near East Cowes. Having retired by the end of April, we intended to fulfil our dream of spending as much time as possible on our sailing vessel. We left Hamburg in the beginning of May, sailed to Helgoland, crossed the German Bight, arrived in Lowestoft, and then slowly travelled along the English coast until we reached this beautiful anchorage on the Isle of Wight. and all of a sudden, after a beautiful and calm day, Petra suffered a cardiac arrest. CPR was initiated immediately, and further help arrived within a few minutes after a Mayday call had been sent. Despite all efforts, Petra could not be resuscitated and died on board our retirement Dream. On behalf of our children, relatives and friends, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to everyone who was involved in this dramatic and traumatic incident. Members of the Southampton Port Authority, members of the Cowes RNLI, members of the Her Majesty's Coast Guard, the staff of the Shepherd's Marina and Cowes Harbour Commission, the Holy Trinity Church, the Royal Ocean Racing Club. They all rushed to Osborne Bay to help in the middle of the night and took care of me and my children when they arrived the next day. They comforted us in our darkest hours and gave Petra a most dignified and respectful farewell. Their helpfulness, friendliness and empathy will never be forgot.
That brings us to the end of today's Talking News, and so therefore it's goodbye from me, Morris.
And goodbye from me, Carolyn.
The BBC In Touch programme follows, and the Scaffolding News follows that.
Hello. Blindness can be funny. Honest gov. But it probably depends quite a lot on who's telling the joke, and there is a thin line between laughing and cringing. But two recent projects suggest that this genre is in a pretty healthy state. Later, we're going to be featuring this comedian, not only performing his own material, but showcasing that of others.
Are you ready? Give me a whoop. Thank you. You can be loud because you haven't been that loud. And I know you've been smiling, but I'm blind.
But first, You've Got Braille is a podcast collaboration between the renowned comedy production company Hat-Trick and the RNIB, with the declared intention of busting some of the myths and misconceptions about blindness and partial sight. So, picture the scene. A young blind man gets into a taxi, late for a job interview.
Do you mind if I ask you a personal question?
Here we go. Yes, I've been blind since birth. No, it's not curable. Yes, I can use my phone. It sounds like a robot. No, I don't have superhuman senses. And no, I've never met Stevie Wonder or the nice blind man off Radio 4.
He meant Gary O'Donoghue, of course. Well, we've all been there, and Paddy didn't even include the fact that he didn't have a guide dog. But you get the picture. And the taxi driver turns out to be a nice guy too, who plays the part of an Aunt Sally, really, who quite often fills the role of spotting when our blind hero is himself being a bit of an oversensitive pain in the butt. Well, I'm joined by comedy writer and TV producer and co-writer of the podcast, Rhys Finnegan, himself visually impaired. So Rhys, how would you define the aims of this podcast?
Well, the first aim of the podcast is to be funny, I hope.
Yeah, I think I can confirm that. Yeah.
The character in this scenario is, I think, relatable to everyone, whether you're blind or not. You know, it's very much a character who's going through the same as what everyone else goes through. You know, just had a breakup and trying to get a job and moved away from home and trying to be independent for the first time. But then with the kind of added layer that he is also blind, which I think really adds a lot of scope for comedy that is quite unique.
But the challenge I see, Rhys, is that, you know, making normality, i.e. someone who's sometimes right, sometimes wrong, sometimes clever, sometimes stupid, it's quite difficult in a way to make that funny, isn't it? Because what you're
Absolutely.
saying is this person is just like everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was the big thing for us, is like we don't want to make this, I think a story about blindness could very easily go into, you know, it's heroic or it's tragic. And with this, it's neither of them. things. It's just very ordinary and just kind of funny.
But Paddy is so not a hero, Reese, in this, isn't he? He turns up late for his interview, his job interview. He doesn't prepare an important speech he's supposed to make. He relies on his inept sister to dig him out of trouble, which she inevitably makes worse. And the point of all that being?
I think that blind people don't have to be these perfect people, you know, that climb Kilimanjaro and go on runs and do these amazing things. I think they can just be very ordinary and sometimes a bit useless people.
Not go on Strictly, for example.
Exactly. I think it's one of those things where I think blind people or even just anyone with a disability, I think it's so easy to tell a story about disability that ends up being heroic or tragic. And I think it doesn't really have to be either of those things. It can just be very ordinary. And I think it's important to represent normalness with disability. I felt very much like a Paddy in my early 20s, like just a bit of a mess.
And you play Paddy, of course.
Exactly.
I do think you've scored some quite good goals. I very much enjoyed the episode where Paddy goes to a very noisy bar to try to link up with an old girlfriend. Eva asks his chaotic sister to link him up for him and ends up talking to Stephen. Eva, Stephen, easy done, who turns out to be the most boring man in the bar.
And the funny thing was, Paddy, I didn't even have to pay interest on the loan in the end.
Wow. That is funny.
Have you thought about diversifying your pension?
Not really.
Well, you should. Right now.
Right now at this bar? Okay, that sounds fun.
People always say to me, Stephen, it's too complicated. Anyway, I actually came up with a great rap about tax-free capital gains, if you wanted to hear it. Listen up, you sly mothers.
I need the toilet.
I'll go with you. I insist. Take my arm.
Okay, yep.
Oh, there's an accessible toilet here. Would you like me to come in with you?
No, thank you, Stephen. What a kind and creepy offer. I'm good.
All right, I'll be waiting right...
Oh, I've been in that situation before.
And I think everyone has as well. That's it. It's like whether you're blind or not, everyone has been stuck with the worst person possible in a room and they can't get away. But I think the added complication with being blind is that you can't you can't escape.
No.
And Al Nash, who plays Stephen, is just absolutely brilliant. He's on the new SNL UK and he was absolutely brilliant with that character. He brought it to life.
You've got some good names in there as well, because of course Alison Steadman plays your mother in this, who keeps ringing up and is obviously keeping an eye via the phone on what her poor blind son is doing.
Hey, Mum. I'm just in the waiting room for this interview.
You are not, Patrick. I'm watching your dot on Find My Friends.
Skating over the civil liberties violation there.
You're at a drive-through, like some kind of American trucker. What time does your interview start?
Has he seen the traffic on the A road?
Your dad wants a word.
Paddy, you seen the traffic on the A road?
Oh, guys, it's fine. I've got a good driver.
Hello.
Is that a smoothie?
I don't know where I got the inspiration from.
Is your mother listening?
Yeah, she will be. Yeah. Hi, Mum. And I just, honestly, the first day I turned up to record my lines and Alison Steadman was just sat there in the waiting room, and I'm such a massive fan of hers, and it was absolutely surreal. So yeah, that was one of the weirdest things I've experienced, really.
Do you really think, though, that humour is a good vehicle to change attitudes? You know, don't we normally laugh loudest when the gag reinforces our prejudices rather than changing the way that we actually look at the world?
That's interesting. Yeah, I've always found that comedy works better than anything else, I think, in terms of disarming people or putting them at ease. I've always said, when I meet new people, I would rather they were downright rude to me than they were awkward and uncomfortable. And I think the best thing about comedy and making someone laugh is that it kind of puts them at ease, and they know, oh, okay, this isn't a person that I need to pity or I need to treat in a certain way. I can just kind of have a laugh with them and find things funny the way that they do as well. So I think it just makes something that is quite unrelatable and scary to a lot of people, the idea of having no sight or having very little sight, it makes it more palatable and more relatable and something that you can have a laugh with.
Is this a one-off, or will you be planning more of these podcasts? Will Paddy become a kind of perennial hero or anti-hero.
I would I would absolutely love to do more. Yeah, I don't know what the plans are, to be honest, but so far the response has been really, really lovely, and I definitely don't think it's the end of Paddy's story. So
And where can people and how can people listen to You've Got Braille?
So you can listen to it anywhere you get your podcast. It is on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Audio Boom, and it is available right now. All 4 episodes are out there. And you can also follow me on @Blind and Blonde, which is the channel I have with my wife, Sophie.
Rhys Finnegan, well plugged. And
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Peter.
Meanwhile, visually impaired stand-up comedians telling jokes about visual impairment seem to be all the rage. Our producer, Beth Hemmings, went along to one of the latest demonstrations of this, a series of comedy nights at Salford's Lowry Theatre, with a visually impaired comedian at the helm.
Hello, Lowry. Are we ready for some comedy? Welcome to the Blind Guys hosting a comedy night with... Yes, really. No, he's hosting this comedy night. Yes, the blind guy.
That blind guy is Aryan Merabani. Aryan has Stargardt's disease, and he is an actor, writer and theatre maker, but only started performing stand-up comedy just over a year ago.
No, not that blind guy. He's a different blind guy. Yes, I know he did Strictly. Yes, his Vietnamese was beautiful, but no, this is a different guy. His name is Aryan Yes, he's brown.
Welcome. This is The Blind Guy is hosting a comedy night. Thank you all so much for being here. Now, just to get it out the way, it's not a bit, I am actually blind. So I can't do the typical crowd work stuff where I pick someone in the audience who looks funny. What I'm going to do instead is I've got a torch here. So I'm gonna fire this randomly into the crowd. Is that a person? Have I landed on a person? Hello, what is your name? Martha, hello.
Aryan is no stranger to comedy writing, having written and performed work with his own theatre company, Floorboard. But he made the transition into stand-up with the help of an artist development programme through Salford's Lowry Theatre called Developed With, which has commissioned him to write his debut stand-up show. More on that later. But the show he's hosting at the Lowry, The Blind Guys Hosting a Comedy Night, is the theatre's first ever show with several comedians on the bill. Visually impaired people doing comedy is no unusual thing, so why put blindness front and centre?
It gives me a lot of ownership, I think, over the blindness. Because if I was just like Aryan Merabani's comedy night, people would be like, oh, but he's blind, isn't he? Oh, okay, that's interesting that he's hosting, because typically an MC will do crowd work, and how's he going to do crowd work? You can't see the audience. How's he going to read the acts' names? How's he going to do? And so I was like, I want to create a night that's sort of set up to really play around with those tropes.
Hello, you. What I'd love you to do is take a look at Susie, and you are going to give me a vicious takedown of her appearance, okay? And we're all going to imagine that I said it and find it really funny, okay? Now, this is for equal access. Okay, off you go.
Yeah. I feel like your shoes could do with a few less holes.
Oh my God, give me a high five. Your shoes, are the holes intentional or are they? Sandals. They're sandals, okay. Okay, I take back the high five.
But it also has done so well, and it's something that with Floorboard, my theatre company, we can't do as easily, and also in my stand-up show, I have to tell them that I'm blind. I don't come across or I don't appear to be blind, because what does a blind person look like? But this show, on the wall behind me, there's a picture of my face and it says The Blind Guys Hosting a Comedy Night. So I come out and I don't have to come out to the audience as blind. Also, my name means nothing. I'm not well known. I'm not going to sell tickets, but what I am might bring people in.
So did it work? I spoke with some audience members during the interval to see if it created the intrigue that Arion hoped for.
I wondered how he would go about the stage when he was leaving the stage and going back. I don't know if he's totally blind, but he's not bumped into anything yet.
I think the first thing I thought was, why would that really make a difference, in the sense of like that wouldn't affect your ability to do it, but I understand that like it's a big part of who he is.
And at the beginning of the first act, he did a couple of blind related jokes. I mean, what did you think of those?
I thought they were funny. I enjoyed them. Yeah, it was good insight into what it's like, and it's good to, you know, have humour about things like that.
What were your thoughts about that title when you read it?
Doesn't bother me in the slightest. I mean, I'm blind. You know, I'll call myself a blind guy or similar.
And as well as being the access coordinator consultant here at the Lowry, was that a reason for you to come tonight?
It was partly because I tend to come to things, part of my job, you know, in case I meet other access users. The fact that it's another blind guy who is funny, like I try to be, it was a good reason to come as well. Support our tribe.
And when blind comedians joke about their blindness, what do you think about that?
Doesn't bother me at all, because I joke about the fact that I'm a blind guy who does stupid things, and you know, as long as it's not over the top and too stupid, you know, we all do stupid things anyway, so why not?
Like a lot of comedians with visual impairments, Arion weaves in jokes about blindness into his material covering other topics. But I was keen to get his thoughts on whether there is a balance to strike between telling people about disability and using it as a source for entertainment.
I think they are both one and the same. One of the tenets of comedy and how comedy works is you set up an expectation and then you subvert it. And so people will have preconceptions about a disabled person or about our lives, and they already have those preconceptions. I don't need to set them up, so I can just say a thing and it subverts them, and that's educating them about how like their assumption was wrong, but also if you can find a way to make it funny. Because what is not helpful, I think, is making people feel stupid. It's another golden rule of comedy of like, you never punch down. And so you can't make an audience feel stupid, or you're like, oh, you don't get it. You don't get what disability is because you're ableist, and they might be, but it's not my job to do that, because then the only response really can be, oh, well, I didn't know, but I don't want to know now. Whereas if you can be like, your preconceptions were wrong, but isn't this funny? And the joke is on me as opposed to on you, you open up so much more.
And this idea of, to use your phrasing, sort of coming out to the audience as blind.
Yes.
I mean, do you think you could do a show without addressing it?
For me, I think I kind of have to, because most shows nothing will happen that suggests that I'm blind, right? But like if the wire gets tangled up or I trip over something happens, I'm like, oh, I kind of have to address this. And then I have to sort of do a bunch of backtracking. But also I didn't used to come on with my cane on stage, right? And after a few gigs in London Bridge, we were in the bar chatting, and I had my cane out. These Irish guys came downstairs and they were like, oh my God, you're actually blind. I'm like, yeah, it wasn't a bit. Like, I would be an awful comedian if I came on stage, said I'm blind, told one joke about it, and then spent the rest of my set talking about my friend's baby. And then I realised, okay, I should probably bring out my cane. So I bring out my cane in my shorter sets. I play into the like, you think I'm a vulnerable blind person with a cane, and then I sort of lull them in, and then I throw my cane on the floor and I like swear at them, so that it sort of breaks the mold of what people think a blind person is.
So your Edinburgh show, How's Your Head, you are previewing here at the Lowry.
Yes.
So when can people come and see your debut comedy show, How's Your Head?
Yes, so they can come see it at Lowry on the 31st of July, which is a Friday, and then Saturday the 1st of August. And then I am going up to Edinburgh 5th to the 31st of August at Underbelly in George Square at a venue called Bluebell. Come see me, please.
Arian Merabani. And that's all for today. Do tell us your thoughts about the programme. Can blindness be funny in your view? Send your responses to intouch@bbc.co.uk, or you can leave us a voice message on 0161 836 1338. From me, Peter White, and producer and reporter this week, well, it saves money, Beth Hemmings, goodbye.
Scaffolding and Skips News, the week commencing the 27th of July 2026.
In the Newport area, 62 St James's Street, Roach Pittis, 60 to 66 Lugley Street, 121 St James's Street, 54D Carisbrook Road. Newport area skips, 36 Chapel Street.
In the Ryde area, 141 High Street, 77 George Street, Morrison's Daily in Union Street, 53 Union Street, 5 Union Street, the NatWest Bank in St Thomas Square, and opposite the Seaview Beach Shop in Seaview. Ryde area skips, 115A High Street, 31 George Street, 50 Harding Road, Flat 2 Holly House Ryde Road in Seaview.
Cowes and East Cowes area, the Parade Public Toilets, Bath Road, Erimew Court, Bridge Road, and 29 Cross Street.
Ventnor area, the Ventnor Youth Centre in Victoria Street, the Rose Inn on Pier Street, and 10A Pier Street.
Sandown area, 27 High Street, Alveston Farmhouse, Main Road, Alveston, Old Town Hall, High Street, Brading.
And in the Yarmouth area, Southford on Tennyson Road.